Hi everyone, welcome to the course. My name is Chris Benjamin. I'll be your instructor in this course. Thank you so much for signing up. So in this course, we're going to be learning all about pivot tables and beyond. We're also going to be learning about pivot charts and then how to create a nice looking dashboard like the one you're looking at. So essentially what we're going to do is start with a raw data set. This is the exact one used in the course. We're going to take this raw data set. It's over 800 lines of data. It's multiple columns out to column R. And basically we're going to take the role of you started a new job, you're given this huge amount of data, and you're kind of told, make sense of this. Create some useful reports, pick kind of the main areas you think would be useful for management, and make something for us in Excel. A lot of people, unless you're familiar with pivot tables, would have a tough time with that. Like, where do you start with a data set like this? Well, with pivot tables, it becomes so much easier and so much more clear. So in the course, what we're going to do is we're going to create 3 different pivot tables and then also subsequently create nice charts that go with those. Now, beyond sort of the basic pivot tables that you're seeing here, as I click through, we actually explore multiple different columns and ways of slicing the data up multiple different ways. We kind of just settled and finalized all of our reports based on sort of the top performers, kind of the best averages, etc. But during the process, we're going to learn, the way of sort of exploring the data, trying different things, seeing what works, what doesn't work, what makes sense. So there's a bit of trial and error involved. So you get to see how that works. We'll create these charts. And then at the end, we're going to create a nice slick looking dashboard. And it, at most, this took an hour just to get through, create all of this. So you can imagine what's possible with this. So we got nice charts that are dynamic. As we change the filters over here, you'll be able to edit your graphs. Let's see, let's just demonstrate. That one didn't do too much, but you saw how that graph changed just by adding in different factors, etc. So we're going to create a nice dynamic dashboard by the end of the course. As for myself, my name is Chris Benjamin. I'll be the instructor. I've been using Excel for over 20 years. I'm an accounting and finance professional. I use Excel pretty much every single day, and working with large data sets is something that I'm very much involved in. So wanted to take my knowledge and information all about how to do this and put it together in course format for you guys. So glad again you signed up. Looking forward to being your instructor. Now let's go ahead and get started on taking this big data set and making sense of it. Hi everyone, I just wanted to make a little video here just about the Udemy review system. Just because I get a lot of questions about it, so rather than sort of answer them, I figured I'd just put it out here. So we'll make this quick. Basically, as you're watching the course, after about, say, 10 minutes or so, 10-15 minutes, once one of the lectures ends, you'll be prompted with the screen that you see right here. So it's asking you, based on what you've seen so far, how would you rate this course? And it's maybe hard to see on the screen here, but you can highlight the different stars, or say I'm not ready to leave a rating. A lot of times when this pops up, you haven't seen a lot of the course content, because so far all I've really done is introduce the course. I've introduced myself. Now you're watching this video. So you're probably only seen like a few minutes of actual course content, and this screen will pop up. So if you feel like you've seen enough that you're ready to give it a review, terrific. But I'd certainly encourage you to maybe hold out, because there's certainly a lot ahead in the course for you to learn at that point. And a lot of times people just feel like they should just give it some random review when they really aren't prepared yet. So I would encourage you to say, I'm not ready to leave a rating. Up to you if you want to say, don't ask me again. If you do this, the course will continue, and then 1 or 2 things you can do to then leave a review later on. Once you're completely done the course, it will bring up a screen like this again and ask you. So that's once you've taken all the lectures. Or, and I have it open here on a different tab, if you go to your course dashboard at any point, you'll see right here. So it says continue to lecture 4. So this popped up after just the 3rd lecture in the course, which isn't too far into it. So you'll see this here, rate this course, and you can do it here. I won't do it obviously. Actually, we'll just click on one just to see what it brings up. Okay, and it brings up this screen again where you can leave your star rating. So, and the next screen will ask you to write any comments you might have. So I'd encourage you to do that maybe. Just wait, just say you're not ready, and then you can come here at any point and leave your review. And just as a side note, I'm going to go back one here, if it'll work. Yeah, you won't see this until you get to about 10 minutes in the course. So when you first start the course, you won't see this at all. Don't be alarmed. It will appear after you get far enough into the course that about 10 minutes for you to leave a review. Or like I said, just wait till the course is completely done, and you'll be completely ready to leave a review at that point. All right, everybody. So before we get started on the course, I want to give you an introduction to Excel. If you're familiar with Microsoft Excel, you understand the different cells, how to input, maybe how to do formulas, and most important, you're familiar with this home ribbon, the different formatting, etc. You can probably go ahead and skip this video, and then anything beyond what we cover in this video, if we do something during the course, I'll actually call it out and explain it at that point. So this is really geared towards people who, maybe, have opened an Excel workbook before but really don't understand, all sort of the functionality in here. So if you are still with me, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to Microsoft Excel. So first of all, Excel is a spreadsheet program. It's by Microsoft, operates very much similar to Google Sheets. So if you use Google Sheets, most of this will apply as well. You might just have to go find things in different locations. So each of these is considered a cell, and this is basically where we're going to be entering data, whether it's numbers, letters, or formulas. Each cell has a cross-reference, so you'll notice all the columns have a letter and all the rows have a number. So any given cell has a cross-reference. For example, this one is I-10, and you can tell that because it's slightly shaded and slightly shaded, or you can also just look right here and see what is. So as we click anywhere, you'll see that changes. Microsoft Excel, so these are considered workbooks, and they very much are like a book in that there's different sheets. So I have my default set up to when I create a new workbook, it just opens up with one sheet. Yours might be different. It might have had multiple sheets already. Regardless of whether it did or not, you can add sheets by clicking the plus sign. So, if we're using multiple sheets in our course, we will need a few different sheets. So anything we do on one sheet won't impact the other. So these really are like pages in a book. So this is like page 1, page 2, page 3, etc. So most of the functionality we're going to be using, again, is on this Home tab. Excel is a very powerful tool. You can do quite a bit with it. But for the purpose of this course, we really don't need to get too involved. I just want to show you how to do basic sort of data entry and some formatting and moving things around, etc. So the way we're going to start this is I'm just going to create a short little sort of table, if you will. Let's assume it's a table of test scores. So I'm going to write out some names. So Chris, Bob, I keep typing wrong. Bob, Julie, and Mark. And then maybe we have test 1, test 2, and test 3. Now the way I'm moving around is on my keyboard. I'm just using the arrow keys, and simple as that. Whenever you're in a cell, just start typing and it'll enter. You'll see that whatever we type here is also up here. This is called the formula bar. So later on, when we actually create formulas, what you'll see here is you'll just see the result of the formula. You'll be able to actually see the formula itself up here. So for example, if we typed, equals 4 plus 7, it would show 11 in here, but it would actually show the plus 4 plus 7 up here. All right, so for our test scores, let's go ahead and put in some just dummy data. I'm just trying to populate some information just so we have something to work with. It's a little bit unrealistic. 6, 7. Okay. So we have a nice little table here. So this would be one good use of Excel. Maybe you're a teacher and you want to keep track of test scores. Well, trying to then apply what we're doing right now to what we're going to be doing in the course, we typically want to format this so it just presents a bit better. It's a little bit easier to look at. It's a little bit easier to understand. So first things I want to do is kind of take care of this header row. So we're going to go across and use all the things here, but not necessarily in order, because some things it makes sense to do later on. So first things first, to highlight, so anything we do, so if we're highlighting a cell and then we go and do something up here, like we apply a bold or color, it'll only do it to the cell that's highlighted. Now, we can highlight multiple cells, and the way we do that is if you click on the first cell and then hold down your left click and now move your mouse, you can highlight, and I'm just scrolling around. I still have my left click pressed down so it can scroll around, so I'm just going to scroll to here and let go. And then those are all highlights. Now anything we do up here will apply to all of these cells. Conversely, another way to do it is on your keyboard. If you hold down the shift key and then move your arrows around, that will also highlight. So just hold shift, and when you're done, you just let go. So let's scroll up here. I'm going to hold down shift, and there we go. Okay, guys, so I like to typically bold my headers, so let's go ahead and apply some bold. So this very first part here, I should say second part, because we'll get to this, is you can do bolding, and basically it's the font itself. So we could change the font style. And anytime you see a drop-down box, like a little arrow, that means you can drop it down. You have multiple choices. Typically, I don't change the fonts. The one thing we might do is change the font size. So maybe we make headers a little bit bigger. So maybe we make that a 12 just to make it stand out. You could use these as well, which is increase font size and decrease font size. And the other thing you'll notice too is as I hover over any of these items, it tells you what it is. Just leave your mouse there for a second. It'll pop up and tell you what that actually does. So here we have, if we want to read, have bold, italics, and underline. One other thing I want to point out is you'll see it says bold and then in brackets it says Control B. So if there's ever a keyboard shortcut, it'll tell you what that is as well. So we can click on the bold and you'll notice it bolded everything. We can click it again to unbold it, or we can hold down our Control. So I'm holding down Control on my keyboard and pressing B. Oops, I gotta get out of that. There we go. So Control B bolds everything. Typically I don't use too much italics or underlining. We'll come back to this in a second. One thing I do like to do though, so just kind of popping over here to alignment, then we're going to move back here. I like to center. So for headers, I want to center my headers. So here you have your alignment. So left, center, and right. So I'm going to hit center. So you notice those are all centered now within their cells. You could indent. So these are indents and remove indents, and these are vertical alignments. We won't get too much into merge and center or wrap text most likely, and if we do, I'll just show you during the course. Again, this is meant to be very introductory for you guys, just so we can format what it is that we work on during the course. So the other thing I like to do to make this stand out is a few other things. One, I like to put a line under these. So it's not quite the same as underline. So underline underlines just the text that's in any given cell. Right here we have borders, and borders will put an underline under the entire box. So that's what I want to do. So I'm going to go here, and if I click off it now, you'll see there's that nice solid line. Just a note, again, there's an arrow, so you can drop it down, and there's lots of different borders. You can do the right, the left, the top, boxes, etc. Other thing I like to do is maybe shade it. So we could change our font color. I'm typically not a fan of that. I usually leave everything just as black. If I want something to stand out, I will though shade the cell. So again, drop that box down, and you can highlight, and you see it changing already over here as I scroll around. So it's not permanently changed till I click on it, but it's kind of showing you what it would look like. So maybe we want like a light green. So there we go. We got something nicely formatted. Okay, guys. So next, let's say that this, so let's go over here to copy paste. This is copy paste or cut and paste, etc. in the format painter. So say this was semester 1 and now we want to duplicate this for semester 2. We have the same students, we have the same tests. We don't want to have to recreate this whole thing over here since we have it right here. Well, just use our highlights. So hold down your left mouse and scroll till you cover it. You can go here to copy, and you'll notice copy is Control C, so we can press hold down Control, press C, or just click on this. You'll see the jagged line outlines it. That means it's been copied, something's happening with it. So let's just paste it right here. So go to where you want to put that copy, and you can just hit the big paste button. And there we go. Now we have a duplicate of it. Easy as that. Much easier than having to recreate it. Okay, guys. So let's say I wanted to copy this, kind of the format of it, but I didn't really want to copy the data itself, just because we're going to have different students next semester. Obviously the scores will be different, and maybe instead of test ABC, these were dates or something. So I like the format. I like all the time I spent making it green and making it centered, etc. One way we can just copy the format is if you highlight, and technically all we really did was these 4 cells was all we did. This little paintbrush here, it's called the format painter. So you highlight something you have formatted, so this, click the format painter, and then go where you want to paste that format. So there you go. So we have our green, we have our line. If I type something, test 6, it's going to be centered, it's going to be bolded. It's the exact same formatting, so it's a way of copying formatting without copying data. Cut works the exact same. So if we highlight something and go to the scissors, so instead of creating a copy now, it will, if we hit paste, it'll cut it and move it to where we went. All right, guys, last few little things. So instead of test scores, say these were actual dollar amounts. Say these were sales amounts. These were salespeople. We were keeping track of how much they sold of each product. So we want to format these to look more like dollars. You notice these are just straight numbers. So the way we can do that is highlight all these again. Then we have our numbers box. So we can format in different ways. So the defaults are, I should say the shortcut ones are the $, the percentage, the comma. There's several other options. You can drop this box down as dates, fractions, etc. And then you can go to more and have even more options. But for our purposes, you know what? We just wanted $signs. So there we go. Perfect. Now, let's say that we didn't really want the cents. We don't need the 2 decimal points. There's a quick way to get rid of that. If you leave it highlighted, don't bother to unhighlight. Right here is the decimal increase and decrease. So if we click decrease once and twice, it gets rid of that decimal point, and it will round off. So those decimals are technically still there. Just they were all zeros because we put in whole numbers. But if there was 0.56 in there, it would have rounded this number up. All right, guys, I believe that is it. Anything else that we cover in the course, like I said, at that point in the course, I'm just going to show you how to do it there. So we'll do things like write formulas. We might do some sorting. We might do a little bit more formatting. But I encourage you at this point, if you're familiar with Excel or you feel comfortable at this point, let's move on. If not, maybe create your own blank worksheet and type some data and just test out. Just try some of these different formats, see what they look like, increase the fonts, cut and paste it around, change things to $signs, make a list of dates. Lots of cool stuff you can do in Excel. So that's it for this introduction. Let's get started on the course. All right, everyone. So now that we've gone over some basics in Excel, some formatting, etc., which we actually won't be doing too much of that. We're really just going to focus on the pivot tables themselves, but I want to give you some tools beforehand just so you know how to navigate Excel a little bit if you're not familiar with. Nonetheless, so in this video, I want to introduce you to sort of the data set we're going to be using. This is real data. It's from over 10 years ago. It's kind of dated, but that's not the point of it. I mean, it still works, obviously, for our purposes. It's from a real estate company, so they were basically tracking in Excel all their deal flow, basically. You'll see things like offer status, so this is each individual offer and what the status was, the date, the last name of the person, the date it went pending, STI, etc. So there's quite a bit of information here. Property type, neighborhood, the agent, the list price, the offer price, the final price, which would be the sale price if a sale did go through. And then there's some additional information. Commission's a big one. We'll be doing some reporting on that. And dates of mutual acceptance and buyer type, etc. So essentially what we're going to be doing is pretending that and I'm just going to go down to the bottom here, some errant cells over there. I want to see where the bottom of this data set is. There we go. So 827. So imagine, you work for this company and it's your first day on the job and you're given this data set. Your boss comes in and say, hey, here's all of our transactions for the last year. It looks like this spans quite a bit of time, or at least a year. This all seems to be 2006. So here's the data set for 2006. We want to do some analysis. Create us a nice looking report in Excel that we can update and we can, manipulate and look at our data in lots of different ways. How are we going to go about that? So, you're given 2 days to do it. Well, what are you going to do? So first of all, pivot tables, the way to go, and pivot charts. So that's what we'll be focusing on in this course. So we're essentially going to play the role of yourself at your job. Here's your data set. What can we do with it to make some pretty cool reports? So just some other notes on pivot tables. In order to make nice pivot tables, and obviously we're going to get into like the specifics and kind of step by step. So first thing, you need a big data set, which we have here. So, it wouldn't make sense to make a pivot table on 3 lines of data. We have 800 plus lines, so this works. You definitely need it to be in sort of an organized fashion like this is, with different column headings. There's a lot of blank fields in here just because of the nature of what they're doing. Like they're not going to have a pending date when it was just an offer submitted, etc. So that's okay, but you want to make sure it's a complete data set in as much as it can be. You don't want a lot of blank rows at the bottom, so just going up to the bottom again. So when we select our data to create the pivot table, we're going to make sure it just selects from here upwards. And aside from that, guys, that's it. I mean, you need some uniformity as well. Like you can't have offer status and have, lots of different things, or even more important than say a list price. You can have some of them be dollar amounts and some of them be, words and comments and things. That's not going to come out the best for our pivot table. So you want some uniformity in what is included in the data. So you want clean data, I guess is the best way of saying that. Aside from that, we are good. So what we do when we get to creating our pivot table, we'll start in the next lecture actually doing the pivot table. I just want to introduce you to the data here. We're going to create multiple sheets for our different pivot tables. Each one will sort of be focused on one report where, basically we're just going to a degree, freestyle and figure out, well, what would be important? So our boss hasn't given us any direction. They just said, give us, some cool reports, what would be most useful for us? So they're mainly going to be interested in things obviously related to dollars. So we're probably going to create a commission report by agent. I think that's one that seems to make sense. We also might look at final prices, or maybe even lists. Let's look at list prices, maybe average list price by neighborhood. That might be an interesting report. And I already see some data that's, like this is lowercase, this is uppercase. So it'll be curious, and some don't have it. So I'll be curious to see, yeah, there's a few with blanks. So I'll be curious to see like how it comes out, and we can deal with fixing issues as we go. We're probably not going to do too many reports based on date. Like there's not too much we can calculate. Ultimately when we're doing the pivot table, we're trying to calculate something. So sums, averages, counts. I mean, we could do counts, on different dates, like how many houses closed in December and January, etc. We could do types of buyer types, and we could do a count on those. So like how many were first time, how many were experienced, and then investors. So we might do a count on that, etc. So we'll come up with some ideas as we go, see how they come out, and if it's actually useful. Like we'll know once we create the report if it seems like it's useful information that we want to present to management. So once we create all of our different pivot tables, we'll then create a dashboard, sort of a one-stop location for them, where we will combine all those charts into one master dashboard, and then we're going to give them some functionality where they can choose different things then. So maybe they want to filter out by agent, so they want to see all the different reports filtered by a specific agent or a specific neighborhood, etc. So it should be pretty cool. You're going to like what we come up with. That said, let's end this lecture, and the next one, let's get started on creating our first pivot table. Okay, everyone, so let's get started. Let's create our first pivot table, and we'll kind of take the first one slow, and then I'll maybe introduce you to some more function and features as we move on. So first of all, thing we need to do is select our data. So you can pre-select it, or you can have Excel kind of guess what data you want to use. Now, if you have it in a nice tabular format like we do, it should do a pretty good job. So let's see what Excel does with us. So first of all, where do you go to create a pivot table? It's under your insert. Now, if you're using a different version of Excel, I know if you're using the Mac version, it's under a different menu, so you're going to have to look, but it should be a pretty prominent item once you find it. So it's in one of the ribbons, and these are called ribbons, each of these. So your home, insert, page layout. It's in one of the ribbons. On the Windows version, it's under insert. So we're going to start with pivot table, and it's going to ask us a few questions. So first of all, choose the data that you want to analyze. So it already guessed. It's we had our mouse clicked within the data set. It recognizes we have a nice kind of squared off, if you will, data set. So it guessed, but let's double check. So let's see here. It went from A1, which would be the very first cell, down to R827, which is all the way over here. If we want to double check, we can click this up arrow. It'll sort of reduce this, and it allows us to select the data. So basically we can start. Now it looks like it did a perfect job. It went to the bottom, and let's just move this over a bit. If I could grab, it might not let me right now because we're in the middle of this. But basically it started right here and went all the way across, which is the bottom of our data, and up to A1. So it did a good job. I'm just going to reselect it here since we're almost there. Perfect. Now if we drop the arrow down, it'll bring back all our selections. Just as a note, you could link it to an external data source. So maybe you want to create a pivot table in one worksheet that's linked to a different worksheet. Obviously, it's a little bit cleaner, if you will, if your data and your pivot tables are all in the same workbook, but there's certainly circumstances where you might need to. Maybe it's somebody else's data set and they just want to give you read-only access to it, and they don't want you to be able to download it, nothing. So you just have to kind of link to it for that reason, just to create this. So that would be one reason. So second question here, choose where you want the pivot table to be where the pivot table report to be placed. Your best bet will almost always be a new worksheet. So if you put it in the existing worksheet, it's going to try, so it's basically going to add to this data table a pivot table as well. Now this data set is obviously fairly large. The last thing we want to be doing is navigating around trying to find our pivot table. So let's put it this way, I've never had a reason to not put it in a new worksheet. Where you might want to put, actually we won't even get into it. For 9 times out of 10 you're going to want a new worksheet, if not 99 out of 100. And then there's additional information here. Choose whether you want to analyze multiple tables. We're not going to get into that for this lesson. So basically the defaults, it picked the right data, new worksheet, we can hit OK. So you're going to see what it did. It created so here's our original data. It's called transaction detail. It created a new sheet for us. So looking at this is the start of our pivot table. So, again, the purpose of a pivot table is to take data in our master data set and start consolidating it and making meaningful reports out of it. So, imagine somebody had told you, hey, I want you to give me a total list price amounts by offer status. Well, and you didn't know how to do pivot tables. Well, you'd have to manually, so you'd have to sort this, you'd have to break it out, you'd have to do the totals for each type, and then you'd have to kind of then probably just go and type that in on a different page, or you could link a formula. But it'd be a little bit of work, let's put it that way. So that's probably not your best report. I don't think too many people care about that, but maybe what people, so we talked about a few examples. Commissions by agent. So let's take a look at that. How would we do that without, sort of manually doing something? So with our pivot table. So here's where our data is going to show up, is over here. And here the pivot table fields is where we get to select what we want to do. So the best way to do this is to start building one, and I'll show you along the way, and then I'll introduce you and kind of tell you a little bit more about how to do it. So first things first, click in the pivot table, which we already are. If you click out, you'll notice the pivot fields disappear. So just click back in this box, and it even says to build a report, choose fields from the pivot table list. Perfect. So here you'll notice, because our data was in a very nice table format with headers, which is basically what you need it to be, the first thing is what fields do you want to include. So each of these is a column in our original data. Then basically we're going to tell Excel, okay, we're going to pick and choose some of these, and we're going to basically tell it where to put them. So, what am I visualizing? I'm visualizing a report that has each agent's name and has the commission amount right next to them, right? Fairly simple. So in our rows, we're going to want our agent's name, and the value that we want to add up will be the commissions. Now, we're not too worried about columns yet or filters, and I will introduce you to those probably in the next video. I do try to keep the videos to 5 to 7 minutes, so let's go ahead and just do this one really quick. So let's see, where's our agent? So if you can do two things. You could just click the box, and Excel will guess what you want to do. And it guessed right, it put it in rows. If you want to as well, you can actually drag it and put it where you want. So I'm just going to drag it here. Now we want commission, so commission amount. Again, we can click it, and hey, it figured out exactly. We want the values, and we want a sum of commission. You'll see that here. So congratulations, that's your very first pivot table. Now, one thing, when you do pivot tables, and there's kind of a way around this, it doesn't format it, it just puts it in as like raw data, if you will, or just general format. So you're gonna have to format these. So the quick way to do that, we'll just highlight this row, we're gonna hit the $sign, and there we go. Now I'm gonna hit save. It's a fidelity issue. So I've already saved my data set out. So I've obviously encouraged you, whatever data set you're working in, save it somewhere where you're going to remember it, give it a meaningful name, etc. So guys, I'm going to end this lecture now. When we come back, we're going to do some more work on this pivot table. It's a great first start. Hey, we have each of our agents, what their commissions were. Let's make a bit more sense of this and make it a little bit more useful. Okay, so we have the starts of pivot table. Now, again, I mean, this alone is did what would have taken us a little bit of time to manually do. We would have had to manually probably sort this original data list by agent, then break them out, create a sum for each one. We could have did filters. There's a few ways around it, but it would have taken a bit of manipulation, whereas this was quickly 2 drag and drops, or not even 2 clicks of the button, and we have the information. Now, this is useful, but let's do some more things with this. So first of all, let's sort this. It makes, right now it's sorted alphabetically, and that's fine, but let's sort it from highest to lowest. So if you right click in here, you're going to, like anywhere in Excel, you're going to be giving options what you can do with where you're at in Excel. And one thing we want to do is sort it. And I'm going to go largest to smallest. I want the top seller on top. We're going to have to reformat it again. That's just one sort of nuisance with pivot tables, unfortunately, but it's obviously a quick fix. Just give it the $sign. I'm going to go ahead and save. I'm going to uncheck that just so we're not bugged with that each time. So we see our grand total of commissions for that 2006 period is 1.1 million. And now we have all our performers. And then we have, so these, it's pulling every category, if you will. So everywhere where there's an agent, let's see right here, it's pulling these data fields and now it's consolidating them. So a few things about this, guys. If I see a few things. So we have a few people that have zeros, and that's fine. They might just actually have zeros. I see one that says blank, and it has a value. So blank means literally blank. It doesn't mean somebody typed in the word blank. It means there literally is no value. So for those, and now thinking again, going back to our example, we're assuming we're given this data set, and we have to create a cool report for our boss, or maybe it's for the CEO. He's probably going to ask a question. What's blank? What's that? Why is that there? So we want to do something with that. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to go back to my data set, and I am going to actually filter this by agent. So, and then we'll pick just the blanks. So if you're not familiar, just a reminder. So if you want to apply a filter to something, so we could do this a few ways. We could just sort this and then just like go to the section that's all blanks. I mean, that would work, right? I mean, let's just do that really quick. I'll show you what I would do. Highlight everything by clicking on the top corner. Sort, custom sort. We're going to do it by our data as headers. And we'll do it by agent. And there we go. So we could scroll down. It's probably going to be at the bottom, I'm going to guess. Okay, so these are all where an agent is blank. So what happened here? So we see a lot of the offer statuses. Offer rejected, buyer refused to sign. What else? How far up does that go? There's uncategorized. So that might be meaningful to this company. Maybe they have a type of agent where it's just done online or something. They don't use it. So I'm not going to mess with that. But what I am concerned about is all these blanks. Now, remember, we did commission. So in theory, anything that doesn't have an agent isn't going to have a commission, but we do have some. So that's where that total over here that says blank, it means the agent is blank, but there's still $signs. And it's a quite amount, that's a decent amount, 117,000. So we need to do something with these, I feel like, guys. And all I feel like we should do, and see, yeah, there's quite a few of them, is let's put in a placeholder, if you will, and let's call it no agent listed. That doesn't really corrupt the data at all. It's very true. It's just going to look a little bit nice on our presentation when we give this to management. Now again, I'm not going to monkey with uncategorize. If anything, if this was real life, I'd probably go to my boss and just say, if agent is uncategorized, what does that mean? Should I just leave that? Should I write? Should that also be no agent listed? For our intents purposes, just going to leave it as uncategorized. Doesn't look like there's too many of them, and I'm not even sure if, yeah, they all seem to have commissions. So we're just going to leave those. So I'm going to hit save. Now if we come back over here, we see this hasn't changed yet. So if we click on here and go back to our pivot table here, there should be a refresh button. I'm not sure. Let's see where it is. Let me right click. There's refresh under the right click. It's also somewhere in the menu, but I'm not seeing it on here. Nonetheless, if we do the right click and hit refresh, you'll see those change to no agent listed. Again, guys, we're going to have to do the formatting, unfortunately. No problem. I mean, you could certainly leave the formatting to last if that kind of bugs you. That would work as well. So we straighten that out. Let's see. So we have names. We have that uncategorized category. We're leaving that. No agent listed. That's fine. Then we have some names. Looks like there was some double, where maybe 2 agents worked on it. Again, if that's how this company wants to categorize these, so be it. And then you have a few people that have none. That's fine. All right, guys, so this video is up to 5 minutes already, so I'm going to cut this one off, and then when we come back, I'm going to show you an additional field we can add to this that will actually be fairly relevant and useful as well. All right, guys, so what would also be useful, I'm thinking, would be, if I was looking at this data, I want to see kind of the total contribution. Like I know the 1.1 is the total. Obviously, Howard here, or these are last names, obviously, was 233. That's about 25%. But I really want to see the actual stats. Like how much did each person contribute to the total? And this will be something new. So, actually, before we do that, I'm going to show you one other thing, guys. So going back, so once we click on our pivot table and we get our fields up here, so we did a sum of commissions. Let's say we just wanted a count of commissions. How many, deals did each person do where they earned a commission? So you'll see here where it says values and it says sum. Now, if you drop that down, we can remove it, we can move it around, but we want value field settings. So what value field settings is going to tell us, or what it gives us the option to do, and it's very powerful, is we get to choose what we're doing with the data. So we're saying, hey, go find all the commissions. The default is kind of sum. That makes sense, right? Add up all the commissions. Well, we could also just count them. Like, give us a count. How many commissions did each person have? Just to go over some of the other ones here, they could do an average. That'd be useful. What's the average commission these people are bringing in? Just because Howard, has the biggest total, maybe her average, though, is way less than, say, Kim S. And actually, Kim S. is doing better deal. She just didn't do enough, but her average overall is better. We could look at the max, like what's the max amount each person did, the minimum by product. Then there's some other, then we get into some serious statistical stuff. So we're not going to get that deep, but I think count would be interesting. So let's give that a try. So here's how many deals each one said. And now, so actually we do see Howard did a few deals less than Kim, but Howard had a bigger total, if you remember. So, and remember, it resorted this list. Howard was on top dollar-wise. So that means Kim does more deals, but obviously lower value actually, because her total was lower. So more deals, but lower total means lower overall average. Then we have all these people. They did one. These people did nothing. So this might be something useful as well. I think let's go back to our sum, though. Like I said, actually, let's take a quick look at average just for fun, just to see what happens. Again, let's give this a format. So the average commission they're earning. So McGarty, who, if you remember, was way down. Now, I'm assuming Rob McGarty is also McGarty. So again, that's a data thing. They probably want to clean up. I would ask my boss. There might be a reason it's broken out. Probably not. But nonetheless, that's just an aside. And that probably would affect the average as well. Because you see there's one big average up here, and then a much smaller, almost one of the lowest averages down here. So something to consider. But nonetheless, we can see what the average commission each person is earning. So that kind of reflects on how big of deals people are doing, right? So we see Howard is only earning $4,000, which isn't necessarily bad commission, but relative to some of the other people. Now, where was Kim? See, now Kim also earns sort of even lower. So just something to keep in mind. Now, let's go back to our sum, though, because I want to show you something else. So we're going to add sum. We're going to have to format this, guys. Okay, so I want to see how much each person contributed. So what we're going to do, so you can add the same, column information, if you will, multiple times if you want. So we want to do something else with commission except for sum. So we're going to click here. Now this time we have to drag it. Since we already have it clicked, we have to drag it down here. Now, again, it did the sum. If you see, these are both the same. But we're going to make this one a little bit different. So if we go down here and we choose that second one and go value field settings again now, so we have all the same things, the count. So if we wanted to, we could actually put count right next to it. We could format this by dollars. So all those things we did where we kept choosing different ones, we could put the sum, the count, the average right next to each other. That might be useful. But something else you could do, and this is what I actually want to get to showing you. So bring up that value field settings again. Now if you see here, summarize values by, sum, count, etc. Show values add. If you click on this, and you can't really quite clear see it, but it's its own tab of information. So show values out as, and it currently says no calculation. But one thing I like is you can do percentage of grand total, percentage of column total, percentage of row, etc. So I want to see a percentage of column total. So whatever the column total is, it's going to show each of these as a percentage. So percentage of column total. Don't worry about these. You see they're grayed out. We hit OK. We're going to format this again real quick because that's what we do. And you'll see, now this is kind of wide, but I'm just going to bring this in. It's showing us a percentage of the column total. Now let's do this. Let's refresh it. I believe, I'm trying to figure out how this person has a higher commission, but the percentage is lower. Let me see if, you can also get the value field settings here, guys. It might be the wrong, maybe we want a percentage of grand total. Let's see if that makes any sense. Value field settings. Didn't seem like grand total changed anything. Percentage of column total. We're going to refresh this. We're going to highlight this. That's actually a bit perplexing, guys. I'm not sure why, if we have a total here, why this person has a bigger number, but this percentage isn't quite on the ball. So let's actually do some manual math just to see what's going on there, guys. So this divided by this would be the same percentage, right? And so yeah, it should be a different number. So let's do that again as percentage of the grand total. Nothing, not changing, guys. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. That's actually kind of perplexing. Well, I will check on that in the next video. I hate to throw away what we've done, so let me work on that and I'll report back in the next video. And then also what we'll do is we'll create a cool graph for this. So we'll get started on making a nice graph, and then after that we'll start making some additional sheets with reporting on different factors, if you will. All right, everyone. So of course, as soon as I ended the video, I figured out what's happening. So my eye caught this. So in this column, we actually have a count of commissions. So this percentage is based on the count total, not the sum total. I was mistakenly thinking it was calculating off of here, but you have to realize it's just taking whatever this column is, and it happens to be a count. And if you remember, Kim had a few more sales, or commissions, I should say, than Howard, and that's why this is higher. So first thing, so let's click in here. Let's change this value field setting. And remember, there's two ways to do this. You could have right-clicked over there, or you can come here and do it. So let's change this to sum. This will still be our percentage of column total is the right actual designation. And now this looks much more right. And we can double check this if we divide this by the total, 20.74. So that's what it was, guys. So sorry about that mistake. I was confused myself, obviously. So this is pretty useful information, and you can see by being able to include the same column information multiple times, so we could actually include it a third time if we really wanted to, and then change one of these to value field settings, change this one to the count. So there we go. We'd have the sum, we'd have the count, and then we'd have the percentage contribution of revenue to the total. Now, I mean, this is very useful information, but what I really want to get to is I just want a simple graph, honestly. So this might be useful if you're really digging into commissions, but for our purposes, I just want a graph of commissions. And we're going to put that on our dashboard ultimately. So the graphs we're going to be creating will be for our dashboard. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these two columns, because if we make a graph, it'll automatically include everything that's included in our pivot table. Now, the way you get rid of stuff is you can just come over here, click and drag. All right. So, still on our pivot table, if we go back to our insert ribbon and go to pivot chart is what you're looking for. So if you go to pivot chart, it's going to come up with some predefined ones. So, I mean, a column chart, line chart doesn't really make sense. Column's not bad. pie chart, which I'm actually leaning towards. So this is probably what we'll end up using. And I'm just coming over here. It kind of highlights it, makes it a bit bigger. Bar charts, area charts, like this isn't bad. But I really want the pie chart. I think that visually represents, because if you think about it, that represents the percentage as well. Because really, you know, however big this is, and if you remember, Howard was 20.74, and that's what this pie slice represents. And then what we'll do is we'll actually show the dollar amounts on here as well. So let's choose pie chart and hit OK. All right, so let's just move it up here. So we have all of our agents, so I'm going to make this just a bit bigger first of all. And I'm going to click. So if you've ever done general charts in Excel, you might be familiar with this, but you can click on pretty much any sort of item within the chart and do things to it. So like you can move it around, you can edit it. So I'm going to call this total commissions. Let's backspace and there. Let's move this. Let's maybe like just put this right up on top here. This, you know, we could try to make it a bit bigger. Actually, I'm not sure it's going to let me do that. It'll let me reposition it though, I know that much. Let's just move it back down here a little bit. I want to move this up because I noticed this isn't every single agent. So we'd have to expand this down here. All right, so quite a few. Now, let's see. So one thing it doesn't have is it doesn't have the dollar amount. So let's right click on this and go add data labels. So if you click on anything within the chart, you can then, you know, this drop down menu would be different depending on what it is you chose. So I'm going to add data labels. Add data labels. So I like this, guys. What I don't like is this. It's a little bit messy, right? Like we have every single little, you know, each of these people except a few were zeros, if you recall. And even that, it has the zeros in there. So do we really want that? So I'm thinking, well, you know, think about our bosses. What do they really want to know? They probably don't care about all these little ones that aren't earning anything. Maybe they care about the top 10. So maybe let's change that. So instead of this being everybody, maybe let's do, so let's click on our chart, and if we right click again, let's change this to, let's see. Actually, you know where we'll do it? My mistake. Over here on our data. If we go again to value field settings, if you remember, let's see. Nope, I might be incorrect, honestly. Let's get out of here. Somewhere here, guys. Select data, format data series. There is a way to just choose our top 10% basically. So I'm going to get rid of this. I'll get rid of this. It might be in here. Format, change type. I am not sure where that's at, guys. All right, well, for now, let's leave this. This obviously is a mess. So what we'll do when we come back, let's see, yeah, we're up to 6 minutes. When we come back, let me figure out that mystery. Seems like we have another little mystery on our hands. I'm just blanking on where it is. But there's a way where we can just choose to display the top 10. So what we'll do is we'll choose the top 10 in the next video. This will be cleaned up a bit, and then we can go on and let's create a second pivot table and come up with some useful information for that. Okay, guys, I finally found it, and sorry about that. It's just did not remember it being here. So it is in our pivot table. So right now we have the full list of everybody, but we just want the top 10 for this graph. If you come over here, you'll notice this little drop down. So we can go to value filters. And if you do the drop down, come to value filters, we have several things we could filter on, but one of them, one of the defaults is top 10. Simple as that. So it'll bring up this box. Hey, top 10 agents. You can make it 8. You can make it 5. Now, I'm noticing, so I was going to default to top 10, but there's quite a few here, you know, little ones. Really, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7, maybe 8 at best, like good ones, and then it definitely gets slim. So maybe let's do the top 7. 7 seems like a nice a number. Then there's definitely a drop off, or maybe even 5. But I mean, 5 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It'd be these 5 guys. I mean, whoever's green here, well, green's no agent list. I feel like we should definitely have that. So let's just do 7 and see how it looks. lot cleaner, guys. Like the numbers are contained for the most part within their categories. This is very representative of almost all the commissions. If you remember, the total is only 1.1 something. Here we have 1.085. So we have the majority of the actual dollars of commissions represented here. Now I would change my title here. Top total. Let's make this top 7 commission earners. So there we go. So that way somebody looking at this chart now knows these are the top 7 and how much they earned in commission. Let's clean up the look here a little bit. So now this is a little bit spread out. We don't need this quite as long anymore since we only have 7 people on here. As well, let's center this a little bit more. I want to center it more over the actual chart itself. All right, and now people can come here. They can reference this. So perfect. So we have our first chart. So let's go ahead, save this. And now I also want to rename this tab. I mean, we've kind of left it sheet 2 for a good while. The way you rename a tab, if you just double click on it, honestly, guys, or you can right click just to show you that, rename. You can do things like move, etc. But for rename, or just double click it. So this is going to be top 7 commission earners. All right. So we have our first chart. So let's make a few, and then a few different ones using different pivot tables, and then we'll create a dashboard. And I mean, we only need a few for you to get the idea. So whether we create 3 or 20, it's not going to matter. Other than it's going to take a lot of time. So we'll probably just create maybe 2, maybe 3 more, just so we have something to put on a dashboard. So in this video, let's try to see if we can just to show you. We spent a lot of time kind of quickly, or not quickly, sort of taking our time building this, figuring out a few of those issues. Now that we have the tools in our tool belt, let's go through and let's make a quicker pivot table. So this is commission earners. What's something else? I want to see the average list price by neighborhood. I'm curious what that's going to come out like. So let's create a new one. So let's start here. Let's do what we did before. Click pivot table. You see it's selected that same data range. I'm good with that in a new worksheet. Perfect. I'm going to go ahead and rename this tab right away. Average list price by neighborhood. All right, guys. So I'm kind of going fast on purpose. I just want to kind of show you once you get going and once you kind of master this, it's really pretty quick to put together. So we're going to put our neighborhoods down the left-hand side, and you see there's quite a few. So this company worked in multiple states. Actually, they worked around the U.S. At the time, though, I think they were only in several states. So we have 159 different areas. So this one might be a little bit out of control. But let's just see what happens first of all. And we said list price. I want to see what the average list price. Now that's our sum of our list price. So we want to format this, and we might actually lose the formatting when we do this. So average, and we did. So let's also sort this from highest to lowest and just see what happens. All right, so there's some big areas, obviously, with $1 million homes, the average list price. And these are all in Washington State in the United States. I can tell you that some of these are definitely nicer areas. So, I mean, while those are big, I mean, there's quite a few. So this report didn't really work out for us, did it? I mean, there's just too many. I mean, there's 159 total areas listed, 157 have values. It's too much data, guys, for somebody to go through. So let's rethink what we might want to do. And I did actually kind of know that in advance. I just want to show you what you can do. I mean, let's quickly put it together, go, okay, well, this doesn't really help us. I mean, it might help somebody doing some market research. Doesn't really help us for creating a kind of a nice summary report. No, what would work, though, is property type. It looks like there's only a few different types. It looks like, there's condos, residential, and there's resale condos and houses. Let's give that a try. And the nice thing is we already have a report here. So all we have to do is instead of, put property type down here. Let's take neighborhood out. And hey, here we go. All right, let's see what's happening here. Let's sort this. Let's do our formatting once again. All right, I mean, 29 items. Still a little bit long. It looks like there's a bunch of blanks. We'd have to fix those if we want to go with this report. What I also don't like is it seems like there's pretty inconsistent naming within the field. So I'm kind of torn on this one. I think if it was a small subset, I'd be okay with it. But because there's so many, and I feel like there's probably a lot of overlap, and there's so many here that are, iffy. Like, is a condo the same as a resale condo? And what's a And, there's resale condo with lowercase, uppercase. Would have to do a bit of work. So in the real world, obviously, if that's something we really wanted, we could go and try to fix those, and we'd have to do some work with somebody. There's neighborhood. That's the one we already looked at, so we don't want that. Last name's probably not going to give us much information because that's the last name of the buyer or seller. And, I mean, every single person's probably going to be different. There might be a few of the same. One thing I do notice is offer status. It looks like they have nice, consistent use of naming conventions. There's only about 10 of them. So what could we look at? We could look at average price by offer status. Would that be useful? Maybe final price. Let's see what else we have, guys. I also noticed there was type of buyer. We could do, what might be interesting is type of buyer and the average, let's say list price. Let's go with list price just because. So let's try type of buyer. Where is it? Here we go. Buyer type. We're going to ditch property type. All right, this is looking promising, guys. I'm not going to resort it at this point. There's a lot of blanks. Bogus. So bogus is interesting because I know bogus means those are offers people put in that they weren't legitimate. Obviously, they were bogus offers. What's funny, though, is it's such a large amount, and the reason for that is because people put in bogus amounts. So one thing we might want to do here is a couple things, actually. One, we're going to filter out bogus averages. We don't, they're useless anyways. They don't add any value for us. The other thing is we need to do something with these blanks. So before we went to the data and we kind of sorted and filtered, another way, just so you know, if you double click on any value in a pivot table, and I should have shown you this a long time ago, it'll actually show you what makes up that value. So if we double click on first time buyers, now it's going to be quite a few. It pulls and it creates a new sheet. It pulls every single data point that adds up to that. So there's quite a few, there's 106. Now you have to remember too, this made a new sheet of data. So you can't actually do that and then edit these. It's not going to reflect in your original data because this isn't your original data. This is just a sheet. So I'm going to delete this. I am going to rename this. Let's go with this. This is buyer type average list price. But we're going to do a few things. So first of all, let's sort our data by buyer type. Go to our custom sort. This time we're going with buyer type. Okay, so first time buyer is great. Let's see. Bogus. So bogus, we're just going to filter those out. We're not going to actually, you see there's only a handful. And if we come over here just to see what they are, yeah, so you have like an $18.5 million one. These aren't too unreasonable, but this one is what's really goofing it up. So, but again, any bogus offer, not really much value. Experienced buyer looks like quite a few. Investors, and then we have all these blanks. So instead of just saying blank again, let's put buyer type not listed. And we'll just go down to the bottom here, and it looks like that's quite a few. So that means the people, whatever survey they filled out, just didn't say what they were, what their experience was. So let's go back here. So first of all, let's refresh this. 2, let's filter this out. So down here again, if we use our drop down, we can just uncheck bogus, and there we go. Let's do a couple other things. Let's sort this. Largest to smallest. Let's format it. I'm going to take out the cents, and then let's do a quick pivot chart. Let's just see. So this is kind of useful. What else we got? We got our pie chart. Just to mix it up, I kind of like our column. There's also bar, which does it this way. That might be interesting. Let's see, column. Column kind of presents a bit better. So let's go with column. Let's move this over here. we'll even type this. This is average list price by buyer type. So a few things, guys. We can get rid of total because really it's just one total, or it's actually an average. We can also, I believe, let's see if we can do this. Expand. Actually, that's not what I wanted. If we go to format, what I really want to format, okay. So there's a lot of empty space on this. I want these big blue bars to be even bigger, less space. So you see here, series overlap, gap width. Let's start reducing the gap width. Actually, let's just make this, there's even a slider here. Let's just see how that fans out. A little bit nicer there. So we can probably go down to something like 50% even. All right, so let's do that. Let's close that. There we go. That's a little bit cooler. All right, buyer type, etc. But perfect. So the average. So an experienced buyer, the average list price is a little bit higher. Buyer type not listed, quite a few. Investors, then first timers. So it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? First time buyers are buying on average cheaper listed prices. So I like that information. So we're going to use that in our report. Now I see this video is completely way too long, so I'm going to end this one, and then in the next video we'll pick up and make let's make at least one more pivot table of useful information. All right, everyone, so let's get one more useful data point out of this. So we have a report based on buyer type. We have our total commissions by our agents. What else could we do? So we didn't do anything with offer status. So I'm curious, let's see, we could do a few things. We could do, again, like an average list price by offer status. Maybe we just want to see a total, like how many deals are in each kind of category, if you will. So this data was probably run at the end of the year. So let's figure out, how many are still pending, how many did we close, etc. So let's just give it a try. Let's go insert, do our pivot table again. We know that's all good. All right, so we want our offer status, which is our first data point. And really, we just want to count. So what we can do is put offer status here, and it's count. So it kind of figured out already. You probably don't want to sum of them because there's no numerical data to sum in that category. So submit it. There's 5. Awaiting buyer signature, etc., etc. Bogus offers 53. So we could do a couple of things, guys. We could, create a graph. So for our dashboard, we do kind of want just nice, kind of like little clickable, like look at graphs. I don't want to overwhelm people with a lot of information. Plus, they know that they can then come to the tabs and see the specific information. Just want to type, let's see. I want to rename this first. So this is offer status counts. So we do want to make a graph of it. So let's just see what a cool graph would look like. Let's go back to our inserts, our pivot. Now it looks like there's quite a few in offer rejected. I believe that's what it is. Yeah, there is. So that really shows you it's almost like a bell curve, if you will. And I believe this kind of follows like a natural progression, if you will. First you submit an offer, then you have to wait, then submit the listing agent. I'm not quite sure. I forget what STI stands for. Pending, then it closes, or buyer refused to sign, offers rejected, inspection failed. There's lots of reasons then why the deal didn't go through. So they had quite a few. Offer rejected. You know what might be actually interesting, guys, is percentage. I want to see a percentage of the total. That might actually be the real useful information here. So let's go, if you remember, so we have our count. Now we want to do a percentage of column total. So 37% of offers get rejected. That's probably some useful information for management. When more than a third of your offers are being rejected, that's pretty hefty. I mean, when you have quite a few and then they could look and see, well, how many close? Now, if they really want to, if we want to, we could filter out and just say how many close, how many, what else would be useful if we just cherry picked, like how many got refused, how many times did the buyer, etc. But in our case, I just kind of want to show them all this. And again, let's make another graph. Just see how this looks. So it's the same relative, kind of looking graph. I mean, the dollar amounts are going to basically be reflected. It's just now that it's in percentage format. But I think the percentage format's really what's more useful to mine out of this information. So the real question is there something, what I think might be useful, guys? So I'm going to exit out of here and sort this first of all. Here we go, sort. Largest to smallest. Now you notice a lot of this, it's not like I pre-planned, guys, exactly what we were going to create. This is kind of how it would be if you were trying to figure out for yourself. Like, here's a large amount of data, go sort through it, pick out what seems like it's most useful, and do something with it. And that's essentially what we're doing. So let's do a pivot chart. Now I kind of wanted to do the bar so that somebody looking at this can kind of come down and see like, okay, offer rejected. Now we're gonna have to do something. Let's just create this chart and show you what it looks like. So let's make it slightly bigger for one. So these percentages, we're gonna clean up this this down here. We can get rid of total. I think that goes without saying. Now we can kind of see the totals, but they're a little crammed. We're still gonna do something there. Offer status, I believe. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Let's see if we can. Don't know if we can. I was hoping I'd be able to hide this guy. It doesn't look like we can. But what is nice is people could filter it. So we could actually filter out. You know what? Let's do that. Let's filter out some of the smaller ones, and we'll just say it's the top. Let's do these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7. Let's go with 7 again, right? So actually here, let's do our value filters, top 10, but then we can drop this down to 7. Look at that, a little bit cleaner graph, and then in our header, we're actually going to write top 7 offer statuses. I'm not quite sure how you type statuses, or if it's offer status, top 10 offer status. I'm trying to think of another word to add to this. Let's just leave it at offer status types for now. Now this, guys, I kind of wish I could get rid of this, but I'm not quite sure that I can. Clear filters and see more sort. So we'll just leave this for now. It's not the end of the world. One thing I do want to do though, guys, is this. So if you right click again, so if you click on anything, you can then right click and do something with just what you've selected. So if I click on this and then right click, I want to format it. Now there is a way, and let's see again if we can find it. Okay, there is a way to rotate it so it is vertical instead of see, vertical alignment. Here we go. Text direction, horizontal. So again, you're just gonna have to click around and search, guys. It happened to be under text options, then this third option here, and then text direction. So we want rotate all text 90 degrees, and we actually want it this way, so it's kind of pointed up. And we could actually, what looks kind of slick, I don't know if they have a custom angle. For some reason, it's not gonna let me do it. We'll just leave it at that then. If it lets you rotate it a set amount, like say 45 degrees. So there we go. So now it's a little bit, we're gonna have to make this just a bit bigger, and we have to make this just a bit smaller to get it all on here. All right. I'm curious too, guys, what would happen if, see this guy just doesn't want to move, and I'm not sure. All right. So this is useful, I think, right? So now somebody looking at this, management can say, oh, wow, wait, now somewhere close to 37, 38% of offers are being rejected. To me, not even being in a real estate position, that number sounds high. So I think this is a useful chart. So let's save this, guys. We're up to 8 minutes. Let's end this video, and then let's go ahead and create our dashboard in the next video, because we could go on making more pivot tables, but I think you get the idea. Okay, guys, next is to create a dashboard. So we have our original data. Then we have our 3 kind of pivot tables we made with little charts. So we're going to have to manually insert an extra sheet. Let's see, it didn't do it here. Now I'm going to move this, and if you just click and drag, you can move a sheet anywhere, just so you know. And we'll name this one Dashboard. All right, and if you didn't know as well, you can color tabs. You'd actually give them colors. So let's give this like a distinct color. So tab color, if I just right-clicked on that, maybe we give this like a nice blue. So now as you click around, that tab actually stands out. Maybe we have our 3 sort of pivot tables as like a nice orangey color. And we have our transaction data. It's just the raw data as, I don't know what would go great with this, guys. Let's go with this blue-gray color. It doesn't really matter, and that's just a complete aside, but just kind of makes things stand out. So for our dashboard, we really want this to be the central location people are going. We could even go so far as to lock these tabs, or I call them tabs sometimes, lock these sheets. We could hide the sheets so people don't really realize they're there. Lots of different things we could do, guys. I'm not going to get too much into that. I'm just going to leave it, assume you're okay with them seeing the raw data. I mean, they provide it to you, obviously. So first thing I'm going to do is kind of color this entire sheet, just so it's not as spreadsheet looking, if you will. So let's give this maybe just a nice light gray color. So there we go. So we just highlighted everything and filled all the cells. So we still have our cells. All right, so this is going to be as easy as it is, guys. So first let's give this a title like Dashboard Report for, I think it was 2006. XYZ company. Now, I'm just going to do a few things. I'm going to bold it, make it a little bit bigger. Let's just do that. Give it a save again. Now, this is as simple as, guys, so just come and click on a chart and copy it. Now, there's lots of ways to copy. You can do it through the menu. I'm a fan of the keyboard shortcuts, so if I highlight this and hit Control C, then go back to my dashboard and press Control V, that'll paste it. And there it is. So let's resize this. Now let's see, when we start resizing things on here, we might have to rethink some of this layout. But let's get everything kind of on here first. So this is our second tab, so let's copy this. Let's just press Control V, and then we can move stuff. Oh, for some reason, it didn't keep this one. Now why doesn't it like... Oh, it's because I still had that highlighted, guys. So when I was pasting, it was basically deleting what I had highlighted and then pasting the new value there. So just click off it, click over here, copy this, come over here. There we go. Sorry about that. So let's just resize this. Again, we're going to clean this up, but for now, let's just kind of get everything on here. And then the offer types, actually, before I do that, let me just make sure I clicked off. And I didn't. Click over here. Offer types. And if you want to know how I'm moving through these sheets quickly, if you hold down Control and hit Page Up, Page Down, you'll navigate through the different sheets. Okay, guys, so I'm going to get rid of pivot because, you know, ultimately people will just be looking at this. So let's see. Now we can hide this as well. If we want to create a little bit more real estate, that's perfectly fine. So let's see. So we have the top 7 here, but obviously that isn't just the top 7 anymore. Or it is top 7, we just can't see them all. So let's first of all just start fixing up this. And maybe we have to, let's just make this a little bit bigger. That's not too bad. This, it looks like we're going to have to scoot over here a little bit because we can't get rid of these. Not to the best of my knowledge. So we have a choice. Do we put all 3 side by side? Do we maybe put these 2 on top and one bigger one on the bottom? Do we make them all the same size? That's kind of up to you guys. You have to kind of decide what makes the most sense for you and kind of who you're reporting to. Do you have it so where they do have to scroll down to look at multiple charts, or are you really trying to get everything kind of, oops, I wasn't trying to move that. So right now we're just kind of doing some cleanup, if you will, and kind of formatting. So let's see. And then let's make this, and you could decide, I mean, obviously I doubt this is what you would want, but you could, you know, just some ideas, guys, on what you could do. You can certainly put these right pretty much next, I mean, the world is your oyster, guys. We're going to have to resize this just a bit. Now this kind of bothers me. I really wish I could get rid of Clear filter from offer status. So we don't want to clear the filter. What we really want to do is get rid of this drop-down box altogether. Let me see if move to report filter. Hide access field buttons. There we go, guys. Found it that easy. So let's just hide all field buttons. We figured it out together. There we go, and we'll do the same here. We don't have a lot of different filters on these. Like if we had filters where we wanted people to be able to choose lots of different things and manipulate the reports, then sure, we might want to give them those options. But in this case, it's really a fairly simple report. I mean, it's, for example, the buyer type and the average price. I mean, there's not a lot to it. So we could monkey around with sort of formatting these and getting them all to the same size. But to give you an idea, so let's save that. You might want to create a fourth report, for example. Let's see. So one thing though, let's see. We're up to 6 minutes, guys. So actually I'm going to end this video. When we come back, we're going to add in another box here, and it's really useful. It's actually pretty cool, and it's a way where we can apply filters to these all at once. We'll be able to select certain parameters, and it'll apply to all of these. So somebody can kind of play around with the statistics. All right, everybody. So last thing I want to show you is something called Slicer. Now, Slicer is basically, well, let's go to it and we'll just read what it says. So it's on your insert ribbon. Same place where pivot table was. And if you go over to the right here, you see something called Slicer. If you click on that, now, actually, I should warn you, before you click on that, you want to select which charts you want to apply this to. So let's just hover and let's figure out what Slicer does, first of all. So Slicer is basically a filter data visually. Make it faster and easier to filter tables, etc. So rather than somebody, so we have some nice charts here, rather than somebody having to go to the source data, filter it, make some adjustments, they can just apply it right here. Now, you can click on multiple charts and apply Slicer to all of them. In our situation, though, we don't really have a lot of common data, like between our different charts. I mean, this one has to do with the buyer type. This one has to do with the agents and their average commissions. This one has to do with the status type. So there's no correlation between all three of these. So it makes it a bit tougher to choose a slicer that will apply to everything. So instead, we're just going to choose one. But certainly, if you had a little bit more complex dashboard, where say you had commissioned earners, and then you had a second report that was sort of average final price by agent, then you could do something where you could create a slicer where you could filter by the agent. It would apply to both of them. So actually, speaking of, let's apply the slicer just to this. So I'm just choosing this one report. I'm going to click Slicer. Now it brings up this drop-down box. Now you might recognize these. Each of these is the categories, the column headers, if you will. So basically, we're going to give somebody the ability to filter out based on these different things. So just to warn you, each of these that we choose is going to create its own special little box with the list of the filters it can apply. So you don't want to choose too many of these. You really need to think, well, what would somebody want to filter by? So let's choose agents. So even though we have top 7, and you see it's a light gray, it's because we've already filtered out. If you remember, we only have our top 7. Maybe we want to give people the ability to look at more people. In that case, the top 7 kind of heading wouldn't really apply, but for just demonstration purposes, let's do that. There's not much else on here that would really apply. Perhaps buyer type, like maybe we would want to see, different agents for specific buyer types, etc. For now, I'm just, I'm going to keep this very simple. Actually, I will include buyer type. I'm not sure that it will work, and maybe offer status. Okay, so you see it threw in 3 boxes here. Now you can move each of these. So let's move this. And this is, again, part of just your planning. Like, how do you want this report to be laid out? Do you have enough real estate to make this look good? So you'll notice, so remember, everything is related just to this chart. So in that case, actually, you probably would, if you were truly doing this, you'd want to put these kind of maybe next to this, and then these charts off to the side. So it's only giving you options. Anything that's kind of got the blue shading means it's an option that can be clicked or unclicked. Things like bogus are already filtered out, so that's why that's not available. So as well, we have this checkbox here. So right now, everything is selected that is currently being shown. Now, if we just click, so let's say we just click first time buyer. So our report changed drastically because now it's saying, well, for first time home buyers, here's the top commission earners and here's what their commissions were. If you click here, you notice it'll change, and this report is changing with each one that we click on. And it's changing quite a bit, right? There's definitely different makeup of who earned commissions based on our buyer type. Now you can choose multiple of these, and the way you do that is you see this little checkbox that says multi-select, Alt-S. If you just click that and you see it's kind of highlight yellow now you can select multiple items. Same thing would happen over here. So even though this says top 7 commission earners, and currently it picks everybody, and then it just displays the top 7. We could though, oops, I kind of moved that inadvertently. Let me just scoot back over here. We could filter out, pick certain agents. So only Chris Benjamin, that's me. I didn't actually earn this commission. I just put my name in. But since I've only chosen myself, I mean the top 7, but there's only one agent that it's allowed to reference. So maybe we also want Kelly Engel, but if you remember, we need to apply multiple filters. So maybe we choose, now again, say we only choose 7 people. Well, they're gonna be the top 7 because there's only 7 options. So a filter like this, you actually probably would want everybody. But maybe you want to like filter out no agent, etc. Now these people didn't have amounts, and that's why they're grayed out, because there's nothing, adding them wouldn't add any value. Now you'll see we kind of goofed up our top 7 because now there's no longer that filter applied. So really to get that back to top 7, we would have to go back here, and you see now this as well. So I should mention as well, anything you do over here, what it's really doing is referencing this source data. So it's coming here, and it's just making changes to this. It's really just applying filters to this data, which is then being reflected on this graph, which is also copied right here. So we could certainly come back here, change this back, value filters, top 10, make this top 7 again, and hit OK. You'll notice this is good, and that would be what we see here. So just be forewarned, you're kind of entering, I don't want to say dangerous territory, but you can kind of mess up, and especially that no longer obviously would apply to the title. Same thing with offer status. So we could say, right now it's just saying, hey, all offer statuses. Yeah, I want to see the commissions. Makes sense that submitted doesn't have a commission type, nor does, bogus, property not active, submitted, awaiting buyer. So anything where the deal isn't actually finished, there wouldn't be a commission. Closed, definitely. Some of these, for whatever reason, there was a commission involved. So, but you could choose different ones, and again, that's gonna pick your data. And as you choose different ones, you see these are changing as well, and I mentioned that before. So anything that's closed, it's only gonna let you choose from closed deals where these agents had closed deals. This agent didn't have a closed deal, as well. There was no bogus under closed, so makes sense. Again, can highlight multiple items using our yellow, and in this case we want this. So just kind of shows you the power, guys, of and then we can choose these, but they're all light blue because there's no options. So that's Slicer, guys. I mean, it just shows you the power to give somebody the ability to filter without having to expose them to actual, this information. If you want to, and maybe you just like give them the agent. So maybe it's no longer top 7 commission earners. It's just commission earners. It had that messy graph, but then you give them this filter that they can mess with, and they can pick and choose from there. So that is how you apply Slicer, guys. And like I said, you could apply it to all of them. If you had more relevant kind of data, that would make sense. All right, everybody. So that is the course. So I just wanted to wrap up real quick. So just to go over it, we took our raw data. Again, remember, I'm just going to go home here, the top A1. You need a nice organized data set to start with. From there, you can start building pivot tables. You can certainly, like I showed you, how to add multiple different columns with different information, but ultimately our goal was to create a dashboard. So just looking through these, so we took our data, created graphs, copy those over to our dashboard, and then also introduce Slicer so you can filter on those a little bit better. So a lot of powerful tools, and again, I mean, this is almost sort of the basics of pivot tables, if you will. I mean, it's much more powerful. You can see, obviously, with the amount of information, you could drill down on these different data points, and really all we're doing is taking raw data and making sense of it. So now, management has real reports, real information they can use to make better decisions, and that's our goal with this. So that said, guys, I appreciate you taking the course. Love teaching this course. Definitely, I'm a big fan of pivot tables, so I hope you can incorporate them into your work life, your personal life, whatever you might do with them. A few final points. Definitely appreciate it if you can take the time to leave me a review for the course. I really appreciate it. I love hearing your feedback. Anything I can do to get those 5-star reviews, much appreciated. And then as well, feel free to message me if you had any questions during the course, something you didn't understand. Just let me know kind of where we were in the course and what I did that you didn't quite catch, and I'll do my best to answer for you what to do. And then lastly, I encourage you to check out my other courses. I've got many courses, lots of things being built in Excel, courses on accounting, finance, entrepreneurship, personal productivity, and lots more. So if you go to my profile and look at all my courses, definitely encourage you to do that. If you like this one, you'll probably like some of the others as well. That said, guys, I wish you the best of luck in Excel and with your pivot tables. All right, everyone, just like I promised, at the end of the course and the end of all my courses, I give you the bonus code. So take any of my other courses, as many of them as you want, using this promo code. So the promo code in this file, this is a PDF file. It's available for download as well, but I just want to point it out on video. So the promo code is Rogue CFO Student. So go to any of my courses, enter that as the promo code. You'll get the $10.99 pricing. The link is in the PDF where you can go to my profile, and there it will show all the other courses that I have available. Currently, I have about 5 others available, but depending on when you take this course, there may be 10 or 20 courses available. So hard to say, but this code will always be available as many times as you want to use it on different courses. So definitely take advantage of that. I think I've got some great material up there if you read the reviews. A lot of students. I'm one of the original Udemy instructors, so proud to have been on the site at this point for 5 years and looking forward to the next 5. So that said, good luck everyone, and get to using the promo code.